Hello, everyone. Today, in our 56th author interaction under Trends Literature Series, we discuss a book which is indeed a celebration of the bonds that we forge with our mothers and those who cook with love for us. So, indeed, Recipes for Life. So, today we have Sudha Menon. She's an author, she's a columnist, she's a writing coach, she's a model, she's a passionate actress, rather, actress by passion. She's written a wonderful book amongst so many others that she's written before this. This is Recipes for Life, in which well-known personalities, they reveal stories, memories, and age-old family recipes. So it is so wonderful to have you, Sudha, with us today. And I remember the last time that you were with us, and I have such fond memories of our conversation together.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And as I can see that you have been a very busy person, all those authors and interactions, I think it's soon you are going to be writing a book, because now you have all the experience of 56 authors in your kitty.
Thank you for giving me such a good idea. I'll do that immediately. So Sudha, I really want to begin asking you straight away, what really inspired you writing on this wonderful book, Recipes for Life, which has been published by
Like, why? This is the book for people who haven't seen it. Yes, Recipes for Life. Don't go by the pickle jar. It doesn't have just pickles. It has memories, nostalgia, lot of love, and stuff. It's like a magic jar. So yes, so what really inspired me, and I really want to say that two very, very deeply personal incidents, experiences that I went through. One, of course, is that about 5-6 years ago, I lost my father, and the family was in shock. But my mother, who had been his companion for over 55 years, she was married to him when she was 16. She just went into the kind of grief that we couldn't pull her out of. At one point, we were thinking that maybe, we are going to lose her too. And so I decided that a change of scene perhaps would help her. And so I went off with her to London, where my elder sister lived. And, the first few days were just worse than even when she was in Mumbai. And then I started taking her out on long walks and country paths, a lot of greenery and nature walks. And when we were walking, we would talk. I would talk. She was not talking to anybody. She had just retreated into herself. And then I would talk to her. And sometimes for the entire hour, there would be no conversation, not even an acknowledgement that I was talking to her. But then one day, for some reason, the conversation veered towards food. And I was talking to her about the food that I enjoyed, that, she cooked for me. And then I asked her, what was it that you ate when you were a kid, when you were back in Kerala? What did you eat? And suddenly, I just saw this spark in her eyes. And then she started talking. First, it was a few sentences, and then it all came pouring out. So many conversations about what she ate and growing up on this big farm, our ancestral home, and how there is this trio of aunts she had who had chosen to be single women. And so they ruled the roost in that ancestral home, and they cooked, and they were all foodies. So they cooked and ate good food, and all of those things came out, and which aunt made which recipe well, and how she learned it. And then I realized that if this is what is going to spark joy in her again, I'm going to talk to her about food every day. And so that summer, it was just me and mom sitting in my sister's kitchen. She went to work, and so the whole house was to us. So she would cook one of my favorite dishes, and then we would discuss the recipe. And then all these anecdotes would come about who in her family liked that dish and how she made it. And I went back to writing down notes. I started taking down recipes. And before I knew it, my mother's spirit was back, and I had a book full of recipes, and we were back home. And I told myself, I'm going to make a book of my mother's recipes. Because I realized even then that it was not just a recipe book. It was a repository of so much stuff. I could see the development arc of the country, of how a society develops, of how those empowered women lived in that village all by themselves. So it was so much stuff, but through food. The stories came out through food. Around the same time, about 4 months after I returned from London, my mother-in-law is a brilliant, brilliant cook. She belongs to the CKP community of Maharashtrians who are foodies. You know, if you say CKP in Maharashtra, you know that the best food gets cooked at home. So she passed away of dementia. And with her went this entire, you know, legacy of all the stuff that she cooked for us. Like all those recipes had been in the family for, I think, 100 years plus. It had come down to her. She passed away at 82 or something, you know, and she had recipes from both her mother and her grandmother and her mother-in-law. All of that just went away because we hadn't taken down, nobody had taken down recipes. And then one day, about 2 years ago, I was clearing out my kitchen shelf, the spice drawer in my kitchen. There's this small little plastic container, on which I had written Ice Khichdi Masala, you know. So she had given it to me at some point, and it was there, and I had forgotten about it. And then I opened it, and this was 2 years ago, and she passed away in 2016. I opened it, and fragrance was still as it was. And I said, this is a sign. This is a sign that I must write this book, because I never wrote the book. I came back and then life took over. I wrote 2 other books in between, and the book of recipes just didn't happen. So I started writing that book, and the result is this.
It's a wonderful book. I have read it, and it has such wonderful stories of such, I don't know how did you shortlist them, such wonderful stories they had to tell about all the recipes, and I have made some of them. I'll discuss that a little later. So, indeed, you have attempted to create the memory and the magic of the food that we have grown up with and cherish. I read one of the reviews of Karen Anand about your book. She's the famous, as we all know, very, very famous food entrepreneur. And she rightly said when she reviewed your book that in a world at a time where bonds are becoming more and more strained with distance and children growing up in different cultures, it is clear that food is often the glue that keeps the bond alive. I mean, she really reviewed your book pretty well, I must say. So did you realize it more when you spoke to all these celebrities across various strata, that challenges and love for eating one's maa ki haath ka khana is universally the same?
Absolutely. If you look at the names in that book, they are pretty much some of India's most busiest people, the most sought after people, who wouldn't have the time. If I just told them that I want to come and interview you, I don't think I would have got the time. Maybe some of them, because I've known them in my journalism days, but most of them were people that I did not know or did not have any connection with. But thankfully for me, when I got through to them and I told them this is about maa ke haath ka khana, and I want to talk to you about your mother's food and the food that she fed you, and it was like magic. Some of them would say, I can give you 20 minutes. And I would say, okay, fine, 20 minutes. I just want a conversation. And sometimes the conversations would be like hours, because the subject is so very special to us, isn't it? It's about our mothers and all that they bring into our lives. So what turned out to be a book of family recipes turned out to be actually a book of values and life lessons, and that's why I call it Recipes for Life. It's a lot of people think it is a book of recipes, but if you read it, it's not a recipe for eating, it's a recipe for living life. There is so much stuff that you have, for instance, Atul Dodia, like India's preeminent artist, speaking to him, and he spoke to me about growing up in a chawl in Ghatkopar, a very, very family of very modest means in Ghatkopar in Mumbai, and his mother, a simple woman from Kathiawad, who came here and adapted to life in that chawl with all the Maharashtrian community around her, and she became one with them. He says instantly she taught us how to be inclusive, how to integrate yourself with whatever is there. Whatever is around you, you have to be part of that. And how she adapted to all she had Shravan Somvar, that's a very Maharashtrian thing. For Shravan, in the auspicious month of Shravan, you fast and then you eat fasting food. And he says that she would make fasting food and she would celebrate Shravan with the same fervor as the Maharashtrian community around her did. And he says that if I'm today one of India's most sought after artists, it's because some days on Saturdays, he was the youngest child in the family, and his mother would wait for him to come from school. And they would sit in the kitchen, on the kitchen floor, and then she would discuss what happened in school. And he says that even at that age, I was interested in art. And my mother would talk to me about art. Even though she was a simple woman, she made sure she knew about art. She read up. She encouraged me to go to the bookstore and buy books related to art. And he says, all of that helped me to make my decision about what I would become in the future. So this is a kind of thing, like so many of the mothers. Author Amish, one of the most successful authors in this country, saying that how he learned discipline from his mother, and how he learned to be humble from his mother, and how his mother taught him through food. Like once there was an anecdote of how once there was karela ki sabji made, and he said, I'm not going to eat karela. I don't like karela. And she said, I'm sorry, but this is what I can afford and you have to eat it. He said, I will not eat it. So it went on for 3 days, and his mother cooked every single meal with karelas for the next 3 days. Till finally,
innovative ways.
Yes, in very innovative ways. But he says that today it prepared me. At that point, he thought his mother was really strict and not a nice woman because she was being mean to him. But he says that today, that the way his mother stood her ground then, today he says, I can eat almost anything that comes to the table, and I can face whatever challenges come to me. I can take it with composure, and I'm not thrown by big challenges that come. So small little anecdotes, but which teach you about what a mother can bring into her children's life or into a family's life.
Talking about Atul Dodia and talking about Karelas, I think his recipe of Karela in your book, and Churma ke laddu, I think, which is mentioned. Amazing. I mean, I made those Karelas and they came out so beautiful.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, the stories. And then when we are talking about Amish, I read this chapter by Amish in your book, and he shared so much of fondness for his mother, as you rightly said.
Absolutely.
That, I loved the way he's mentioned his mother's recipe on kaddu and kaddu ka puri and everything. And that reminded me of my mother.
Yes.
And she also makes such beautiful kaddus that we don't want to cook. We just want to wait for her and just let her do it for us. So I think this book gets you back to your childhood days and gets you back to the lovely time we used to have as a family, and the lovely recipes in their own limited means. Growing up in 70s and 80s, all of us were not used to fancy restaurants.
More innocent times.
Most innocent times. And they were cooking, I don't know, with some bare things. They were cooking the world, and they were, as they say, whipping up a storm for us.
Yes. And I think for me, what has amazed me about this book's journey is the amount of young people who are reaching out to me on social media, Facebook and Insta and Twitter, direct messages, email, saying that this is such a precious thing to have happened. They picked up this book and they said that this generation is, if you really look at it closely, they're very independent people. They don't want to be around the family so much, and they are a little distant, a little, there is a sort of distance which we didn't have when we were growing up. And many of them wrote saying, thank you so much for writing this book, because it took us back to our lives as children. And then I told my mother about it, and I gifted this book to my mother. And now I feel so much closer to my mother. And now I am taking down her recipes. And I think that is really important, because one of the reasons I wrote this book also was that we don't document our family recipes. And food is so much a part of our identity, our culture and our identity. And if we let all these things go away unrecorded, we are going to be the loser. The world doesn't care, but we are going to, our children and their children are never going to know what their ancestors were and how was their life and what did they eat. We are going to lose their identity.
So right. In fact, Vikas Khanna, he's written your foreword, and he's mentioned that the food tradition that we have inherited in our families, that should be known to the children. It needs to be documented. And so was it your intention to connect the dots, as you mentioned already, and need to get these age-old, traditions and the cooking recipes passed on? I mean, this is what has happened. It has happened as a byproduct to your book. But did you really foresee this is how it is going to happen? And how did your mother react to your book? That is most interesting for me to find.
You know, my mother has dementia. My mother now has dementia, and her name and her pictures are all over the newspapers, but my mother doesn't understand it anymore. It's one of the saddest things. It's so heartbreaking, but I'm also happy that I wrote this book when she's still there, and she still recognizes her picture, but she doesn't know what this is about. So my mother is happy that she has some inkling. Like the entire day she sits with this book, she reads the part of her brain which is reading and all of that. She's reading this, but one part of her brain which is about short-term memory is gone. So she doesn't really know what this is. So it is a very bittersweet kind of journey for this book. And you asked me whether this was what I set out to do. I think one part of it was, yes, this is why I set out to write this book. My daughter is a pastry chef, and she makes the most amazing pastries. But she doesn't have a clue about what the family eats, because now children are all about dial in Swiggy and Zomato and all of that. And so and other than Onam and Vishu, when, till now my mother used to cook. Now she's not able to cook anymore. But my sisters cook. And so once a year we all meet and we'll eat traditional food. After that, it's back to ordering pasta and sushi. And so I have always felt that my child should know what we eat. She should know part of her identity. And it's truly amazing that this book has made her sort of. So the last time I met her, she said, will you make that khichdi you used to make for me when I was 3 years old or 4 years old? So it has started, that quest to understand what the family grew up on, what they ate. It started, and this is it with every family, because we don't live with our children anymore. The children are in another city, another part of the world, and they tend to forget that connect with their family, with the food they ate, with generally with their identity. And I think this book will sort of, like somebody reviewed this book day before yesterday, and that review said that this book is a keeper. Like you have to keep this book, not read and throw, because it's a lot more than just recipes.
And maybe along with it, make your own diaries and keep along with the book about your own recipes. Because, since I've read your book, I've just started wondering, what am I going to pass on to my children? So I need to kind of write it down, especially when I read the chapter which you have written on your mother's recipes. There's something very interesting that you've mentioned, which I definitely plan to make, that raw mango and cucumber curry that
oh, yummy. You must. That with steaming hot rice and nice South Indian papadam is like heaven. Give it to me anytime over champagne and caviar. Not that I eat champagne and caviar, but no fancy food compares to the taste of what your mother has cooked. And that was what she, as children, like, if one of the things that we learned from her, she was a homemaker, and she raised all 4 of us, and she could have chosen to go to work, but she chose to be with us and, raise her family and all of that. And by looking at her, just by observing her, go about her life, I learned so much about, compassion and generosity and how to share. Like, we grew up in a family of very modest means, but no person came to our house who went back disappointed or hungry or empty-handed. Anybody came to her for something and they got it, even if she couldn't afford it. And food was like, even the person who came to collect the garbage every day would get something. She would pack a little something and give him, because he came around breakfast time, and she would say, it is so bad, they don't get to have breakfast because they are here to collect our garbage. So she would, if it was some couple of idlis or couple of dosas, but every single day. And so you learn like that from your mothers. Just, I think women, especially homemakers, if you look at it, like, if you look at how many women in this country and across the world, not just India, how many of us devote ourselves to, we all have careers. Some of us don't have outside careers, but your career is full-time homemaker. But nobody recognizes that part of your life. Put 3 meals on the table, 365 days till the end of your life. Who has gone into the financials of it, the economies of it? Nobody. It's just you just expect that your mother will do it, and the mother delivers every single time. And if there are 4 people and 4 people want different things to eat, she makes that 4 different things. And it is a lot of hard work, and it's not recognized, it's not celebrated, it's not even acknowledged. So it was very important for me on all counts to write this book. A lot of, when I started writing this book, a lot of my friends asked me, why are you writing a food book? Because food book is supposed to be not quite good enough. Food, unless you're buying it from fancy restaurant, is not good enough. Like, what do you do at home? I cook for my family 3 meals a day. Not good enough, as opposed to, do you have a career at home and you go to work every day? That is good enough. But if you're at home and looking after your family, you're not good enough. So yeah. So why I wrote this book.
All of us here, I'm sure, must be recognizing, and whosoever sees this on YouTube later, because I can recognize this and I can totally identify what you're talking about. Your mother holds true for my mother too. Whenever she comes home, I just don't want to let her go. Please cook your, she's 76, but she's always cooking for us, and that is a bonus whenever she comes home.
Yes.
Kubera Seth, who's the actor, she writes in the story that she writes for her mother, she says that someone looked at her mother's palm and said that aap Annapurna hai, because aapke ghar se koi bhuka nahi jata. And he just mentioned that. I think it is true for all the mothers.
Yes.
I mean, they don't let
so.
anybody really go without food. They're so used to feeding their children so well. So don't you think it is true for all the mothers and grandmothers?
Absolutely. So that it was important for me to bring out those things about mothers, just for all the young people to know that there are things that have value, and those are timeless things. Those values are timeless, and those you learn from your loved one. And mostly it is a mother who's there. And, most mothers are not telling you all of these things. They're not giving you a bhashan. Just by being who they are, and if you're observing them, you learn everything. Like, I don't think my mother ever sat me down and said to me that you have to be compassionate or kind or share your resources. We just looked at our parents and learned. And it's true for all of us, isn't it? I wanted to write this book so that the generation which is now, and the generation which is children who are growing up now, they realize and value what they have. I'm not talking down. I'm just saying that sometimes when we are living a life, we don't often realize that you're losing out on something, or you don't realize what's happening. And later, in retrospect, you'd say, oh, I wish I had spent more time, or I wish I had learned, or I wish I had listened. So this book is all heart, actually, because it's about mothers.
But I also realized, you did the most impossible task of getting around 32. When I counted, there were around 32 celebrities, including you, for your book, who have been interviewed, and you got their food bonding, etc. So how did the shortlist happen? And I'm sure you did leave out some that you wanted to cover.
For me, it was not about, like you see a lot of famous people here. And but my intention was not to have a book of celebrities, but I was looking actually for people who have interesting backstories, an interesting narrative, somebody who I knew could add value to the book, somebody who could teach something, somebody who could just have a story which will tug at your heartstrings. And miraculously, 30 people, all of them have a story that is completely fascinating. So much. Their mothers taught them things. They learned so much stuff from their mothers. The food is diverse. I wanted to make sure that there is a diversity in what I'm writing. And it is nowhere enough. It's just 30 people, and this is such a vast country. But to begin with, I think this was the best. It was difficult initially to, like I said before, a lot of people say that, food book, you have a credibility, you write such other topics which are of relevance and importance. You have a body of work. Why are you writing a food book? But once I explained what it was, then it was easy peasy. Then everybody was on board. Everybody spoke to me generously. for what happened difficult here was that the pandemic happened right in the middle of my interviews. And then for a month, I was paralyzed. I didn't know what to do, what I would do with the book. And then I said, but all of us are stuck at home. Nobody's shooting, nobody's traveling, nobody. So I will just pick up the phone and speak with them. And in one way, it was good because everybody was at home. I got their attention span a lot more. I could speak a lot more. I spoke to the mothers. First I would speak to the people in the book, and then I'd say, wait, I'd love to speak to your mother. And then I'd speak to the mother. And mothers are the most amazing people, They'll say, beta, आप वापस भी फोन किया आपने तो कोई बात नहीं. आपको जितने बार फोन करना है आप फोन कर दो. मैं बता दूंगी आपको रेसिपी. So it was a happy thing because I forged a lot of bonds with a lot of mothers, Yeah.
Sure.
So now I have a lot of mother friends from the people of the book.
I could see that, and the recipes they have shared very close to the heart. They would have just enjoyed giving it to you, I'm sure. So which is your favorite chapter in the book, and which was your favorite recipe for that matter? I know the one with Irfan Pathan was one of my favorites.
Completely, like Irfan broke my heart when he spoke. It is just such a humble acceptance of who you were. And he's, I think, one of the most influential people in cricket today in the sporting world. But he has no problem at all with owning what he was before he became who he is now. So I still remember, I asked him, this was a telephonic interview because by then we were in the middle of the pandemic. And stupidly enough, without researching, I asked him, Irfan, what were the most memorable meals that your mother cooked for you when you were a child and when you were growing up? And what are your favorite recipes? And he said, Sudhaji, for me, what would have been memorable was if we had 3 square meals a day. We just had 1 meal a day. That's all we could afford. And that was dinner. And that was mostly khichdi, moong and rice with batate ki sabji, because that was all my mother could afford. And then he said to me, you asked me about my favorite recipe that my mother made. And he said, my favorite thing to eat, even today, what really makes me go all nostalgic and teary-eyed. He said that there is this memory in my mind of my mother in the kitchen early morning, and we would be waiting to go to school, and Abba would be waiting to go to work, and we would all gather in the kitchen, and Ammi would make garam roti, smear a little oil on it, and then we would dip that roti in chai and eat it, and it was the most divine thing. And of course, that was all we could afford. And then we'd go off to school. Next meal was in the night. But he says, even today, now I can afford to put ghee on it and eat it. Then it was oil, but it was still, the magic was in my mother's touch, in the generosity with which she made that little thing and gave us. And he says, that's always my most favorite thing to eat. Sit with my mother and eat garam roti dipped in chai. So see, that is what the book is about. It's about accepting who you are. It's about the stories that shaped you, the women who made you who you are, the women who shaped your destiny.
So right. And Irfan, the way he can eat anywhere right now, the most expensive restaurants, but I'm sure he still cherishes his mother's recipe. And especially, I remember he mentioned about this green tuvar and methi sabzi with brinjal and potato. That is, I think, something which we all should try. It sounds very exciting.
Yes, it's a very Gujarati recipe, and he says that it makes my mouth water so much. It was inexpensive to make. That's why the mother could afford it. But it was green tuvar and methi and a lot of spices. And he says, when I got married, I told my mother to teach my wife the recipe. And after that, my wife taught the domestic help. Yeah. So that recipe is going to be there. He says, but he says it warms my heart even now to eat it.
So right. In fact, apart from this recipe that I mentioned, I remember a few of the favorites from the book, which I must talk about here. I think Ajit Agrkar's Chirvan that I've already tried, and Amish Tripathi's, I think he mentioned that Kadut Puri, which I mentioned. And then even Vidya Balan's mother's, you really, right? And Shashi Tharoor's also. I mean, you've really taken in very, very nice people and their history and their story and the way they have written. Rather, you've
Yes.
written those stories and the recipes that shared. And also Mary Kom. I mean, that was something.
Oh my
Must tell
God.
us about
Mary
Mary Kom's history.
Mary Com's story, I think, is the story of perseverance and resilience and strength. You know, it is like she is now a world-beating boxer. Like we all know her as the India's boxing champ, but how many of us know her background? Of course, there was a film on her, but that is nowhere near to what she actually lived. You know, so her story is about growing up in a tiny mud house in the hills. You know, and she speaks about this growing up in this village in this little house, and she says we were so poor that we had to work. My parents had to work in the they were landless laborers, so they worked in other people's farms, and then mother had they had a small little garden patch behind their house, and they grew vegetables there, and they sold it in the market so that they could have some extra money, and the rest of it the family ate. And she says that the magic of that, she says that today we all live in fashionable homes and we eat fashionable food, but we don't know we don't know the luxury, the blessing of getting to grow up in the hills and eat fresh, organically made produce. It was not consciously organic, it was organic because it was in your backyard, and seasonal, and whatever was cooked, mother would go out, pluck whatever was there in the backyard. The fish came from the neighborhood lake or the pond, or sometimes even the field. Wherever there was fish, they would catch that, they would eat that. She said meat was a rare thing, it was a luxury, but mostly it was just this vegetables and dried fermented fish, which is very, very typical of that region. And she says, today I cook the same things for my boys. And she says, it is such a joy to my heart that my children like that food, that simple, organic, typical food from my land. And it is so precious to me that, and she says that for me, it was Sundays was when the family could be together. The rest of the time they were all working. She says Sundays we would wait for, she calls her mother Anu. She says we would wait for Anu to make, kopi booth, or that's just stew with lot of vegetables and herbs, and steaming hot rice and some pickle on the side. She says the magic of that memory is still makes me happy. Just sitting down. She says sometimes I would be in the kitchen when she was cooking, and I learned not just cooking from her, I learned about, resilience. And I learned about never giving up, because they didn't have anything and they had to raise a family, and they had to look at that woman, like simple, unlettered woman. She raised a child who became a world champ. And she says, I learned a lot from her. So these are stories that we all should read, and know. For me, this Mary Com's chapter in my book was a great eye-opener, because I thought I was well-read, well-traveled. I knew about food, and I realized I knew nothing about food from that part of the world, from that part of our country. And that is a problem, because that is part of our country, and we don't know anything about how they eat, what they eat, what is their, culture, what is their identity. We don't know. And so it was important for me to say that story.
I met Mary Kom once. I was going to Russia, and I really found her quite down to the earth. And it's all about, she's mentioned some very, very good recipes from her mother's, and we should go through. I think one particularly was Khang Shoi. That sounds to be interesting.
Yeah.
And I think we should, I think, make it at home. Maybe we also have some world-class athletes out of our houses. Yes. One of my last questions before I move on to the interactive round is that, your book has indeed generated a lot of curiosity because of the title of the book and the caption and, of course, the content. So how do you feel about the response? So
I'm filled with joy. I'm filled with joy on so many counts. One, of course, that when she is in some lucid moment, my mother reads the book. She reads it aloud, and she keeps going back to the same chapters, and she reads it. And then she'll ask, what is this? And then I'll show her my chapter on her. And sometimes she will smile because she understands. Sometimes it doesn't register. So, but I'm happy that I could in some way capture her memory, because this is really about her diminishing memory. Her memory is gone, but I have captured that here. So that is one part of the joy. The other is that this book has really caught the imagination of people, and they are actually, what I set out to do, that people should document their family recipes. And so many people writing to me saying that we're sitting with my mother-in-law, father sometimes, because sometimes the fathers are cooking or the brothers, saying so many young people have written to me saying that we have started writing down. We are keeping a journal of we're writing down recipes, keeping a journal of her memories and, recipes. So it is, I knew that the book would work because it's a book written from my heart. So it would touch other hearts, but I didn't think it would get so much love. But I think that's because all those mothers are blessing me.
I really wish we continue getting all the love. And
I'm not able to hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you.
Yeah, I know. No, I wish and I pray, and I really wish you all the luck. You'll continue getting all the love. I'm sure of that. So
thank you very much.
We have Roma Ghosh right now. She'll be in the interactive session. She's an author. She was, in fact, my first author in my author interaction series. So she really holds a very, very special place in my heart, like you. And she's written a book, in fact, which was in Amazon. This book was Taste from the Waste. And she also writes very, very regularly for Women's Era. So Roma, Sudha for you.
Yeah. Yes. Hi, Sudha.
Hi, Roma. Hi.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations, because I know how you feel as a writer, getting this huge contribution to the gourmet society, if I may call it, because your book will always remain so precious. Two points I want to ponder on. First thing, you said you wrote the book with a lot of love. You said your book has a lot of love. I personally, as a writer, food writer, because I love cooking. Cooking is a passion. When I want to de-stress, I cook. Right? When we order food online, when it comes and we are over, then my husband would say, "Oh, why did we waste our time and energy on also ordering on Zomato?" It's not that up to the mark. You talked about love, and I feel that any person who wants to cook or loves cooking or wants to start cooking must have that element of love. Why 100%. Did our mothers, we 100%. As mothers, isn't it? And we as mothers or our mothers, 100%. Why was food, simple food, like you said, that roti with a little bit of oil tastes so good? Because it had so much love in it. Yes. And the second point, through your video and this video recording, today's generation must value what is going by. You said your mother-in-law passed away with all those lovely recipes gone. Nobody to, sometimes you feel, oh, give me back those days, let me go 100%. Back. I have this friend whose mother-in-law used to make this most amazing chom chom and rasgulla, and not the ones that you get in the market.
No.
And I used to tell her, Gopa, go learn from your mother-in-law. But she kept saying today, tomorrow. But today and tomorrow went past, nothing was safe. So, Sudha, what I have done, as a cookery person, I have sort of always shared my recipes with my son. I don't have a daughter, I have one son, and they live abroad. Now, today my daughter-in-law is pregnant, right? So she's craving for certain things like motor shuti kochuri. The kachori
so
we make out of. Yes. So, we shared the recipes, and I'm glad that they're noting down these recipes. There's no help at home. So you're doing it yourself,
Yes.
So you don't have to write down anywhere. It's in your head.
Yes.
So your book is a really big contribution. The other second thing, which always worried me when I was doing my book, was photography. How do you handle that side of the book?
In this book, I didn't put photographs at all because we were in pandemic times, So
okay. That is the question I wanted to ask you. Why is it that you did not use any photographs?
Because we were in the middle of the lockdown when I wrote this book.
Okay.
So there was no question of taking camera person and going and taking pictures. There's no question. And I had a few photographs, but that would not do justice to the rest of the people in the book. So I just decided to go with people's pictures. And, you know, like I'm saying that the images of biryani would be the same. You can look at it. But what you would not get is the pictures of, like some of the pictures here are very rare pictures of families. Like many of the people here are very private people of their personal lives. You know, they don't don't share so much about their personal lives, but they are very, very happy to share their pictures with their mothers. So I thought that would be interesting.
And as a writer, I always feel that, you know, pictures do tell the story. Yes,
100%.
But then sometimes they don't tell the right story. You know. A dish may look what it looks, but when the picture is there, you know, even a simple khichdi probably doesn't look that yellow that it
glamorous.
should. You know. But
Sudha,
thank you so much for this contribution.
Sudha, Roma has been the person behind all the women's era recipes that you see.
For the last 20 years now, yes. Last 20
Fantastic.
years.
Thank you. Fantastic. Thank you, Roma.
Thank you.
Anyone else who would like to ask a question? I am there. So I would request Aruna Singh. Can you please switch on your video to ask a question? And Dia, please switch on the video of Ms.
Oh, Vijay Shankar is raising his hand.
Yes.
It's not happening.
Yeah, can you switch on Mr. Vijay Shankar's video? Yeah.
Tech problems.
First, Vijayji, just wait. Vijayji, just wait.
I'll wait.
Hi, good evening, Sudhaji. It was really nostalgic listening to what you were saying and what the recipes hold to you. And I had this big regret because my mother passed off very rather not very early, but yes, I was quite young when she passed away. So I never had this opportunity to learn from her, and that's a big regret I have even today. Because she, as usual, as mothers are, you know, they are the best cooks around.
Yes.
You cannot accept anybody else as a better cook than your mom.
100%. 100%, yes.
So I just want to ask you over here, although I haven't read your book, but I want to ask you here, how did this recipes of other people come into the picture when you were recording your mom's?
Because I then thought that instead of just making it a book about my mother, I said, this is such a special thing that we don't, everywhere it's the same story, you know, we don't.
Very similar.
No family, most families don't document their, you know, their family recipes. And so I said, instead of just making it my mother's thing, and I also know that most moms, we presume they're going to be there all the time, you know, but
they're taken for granted.
Yes. So their lives, their contribution to our lives never gets documented. So I said, let me just make it a universal book, like put other people in it. Let's document.
Absolutely. Three cheers to you for that idea.
Thank you very much.
That's a big one.
One of the biggest things that happened day before yesterday was the phone rang, and it is a number that I didn't recognize. And usually I don't take, I don't pick up calls which I don't
have no name on it.
Given the times we are living in, it's mostly some spam call. But this one I felt I must pick up, and I picked up, and it was the mother of one of the people in this book, and she said, "बेटे आपने आज एक ऐसा कमाल किया है कि आपने हर माँ को celebrate किया है, और वो कोई चीज वो कोई करता ही नहीं है." So it was one mother in the book saying that you have celebrated all the mothers in this universe, and it is such a thing. It is such an important thing that you have done, because mothers come into our lives and go away unsung. And
although we know the importance, but we don't sing about it.
Yeah, we don't do anything about it. Yeah,
exactly. 3 cheers to you, Sudha.
Thank you, Aruna. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Aruna. Aruna is a life coach, and she's an
I'm an educationist, I'm a writer, I'm a blogger. I am also doing a lot of things in life.
Fabulous.
Thank you so much for this.
Do read the book and see where
Sure, I'll get it.
Yeah.
I'll just
Do
get
write
it.
the review. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Next, we have Mr. Vijay Shankar. He's a big supporter of our platform and he's always there. Thank you, Vijay. And he's an advocate.
Good evening, ma'am. Am I audible?
Good evening. Yes,
You audible?
you are.
Ma'am, many congratulations on your book.
Thank you.
Mm.
Thanks a lot.
I'm still in my uniform because I had to travel all the way from Panipat. I'd gone to Panipat. I've just returned.
Okay.
So,
No, that's
I
okay.
had to
That's
join it
perfectly all
anyway.
right.
I had to join it anyway. So
That's
apart.
perfectly all
Ma'am,
right.
Ma'am, I have one question. Like, although we are writing and reading a lot about recipes and all, we are doing a lot of experiments about food. But somewhere down the line, like this has been my gut feeling, that we don't have patience to cook the food the way it has to be cooked. The sort of time which has to be devoted to cooking, it is not being devoted.
Yes.
Like I've seen seen the traditional recipes of my own home state, Bihar. Like we had litti chokha or whatsoever. It used to take time. Like I belong to a village background.
Patience chahiye, haan. Slow cooking. Slow cooking.
Exactly. So we used to bake it on cow dung.
Chula.
Correct. And later on, when I came to the city, I saw people baking the same things on gas.
Yes.
Oven and all. Some people started baking it on coal. I tasted everything. In fact, I went through the same recipe in Delhi also. Baked over coal or baked over oven, but it was never redolent with that taste.
Yeah.
That taste was that redolent with the smell of and taste of that coal, the
smoke, the smokiness.
Fire.
Yeah.
Exactly. It was not that smoky. Exactly. So same thing goes about other things like biryanis and all the sort of time it used to take in the older days. The same time, I think nobody has the same time for the same. So aren't we losing on that part?
Yes. See, for me, so when I started out and when so many of these people in this book have written to me about the food that their mothers made, their grandmothers made in the villages, and how those recipes are even now being cooked in their city homes. For me, it was a sense of joy that people are still cooking it instead of saying this is too difficult. Ye nahi banayenge, sirf pasta hi khayenge hum. So in whatever way, Indians are known for how jugaad karte hain bahut. We are very innovative. So we will improvise on that. It is important that we don't lose it completely. At least keep it alive in whatever way. Like अभी हमारे घरों में कहाँ चूल्हा जलाएंगे? छोटे-छोटे अपार्टमेंट्स में चूल्हा कहाँ जलेगा? Where will you do all that? So even if in whatever way you are able to keep it alive, if we are able to do that, that's also good enough.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And I'm looking forward to read your book.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Please do read it. Thank you.
Order it on Amazon. Thank you, Vijay.
Yes.
And last question we have from Mr. Deepak Koth. He's joined in from London. And he's a very regular participant on our channel. He's an investment banker and a financial consultant. Deepak.
Hi, Sudha. It was absolutely great listening to you, and you're blessed for keeping the Indian tradition alive.
Thank you very much.
Prior to the pandemic, I used to always jokingly say that in the kitchen I can only cook tea, coffee, and toast. But pandemic changed everything. I think the best thing that came out of it was I learned to cook.
Yes.
And today I can cook almost anything as long as I have the required ingredients and utensils, I guess.
Fabulous.
And working from home also, I think I now save my commuting time and I cook a number of different things. Now, I've been out of the country almost for 25 years and I've extensively traveled and worked in many parts of the world. But wherever I go, it's always, after a few days, you need your dal roti. So,
absolutely.
But at the same time, I also love a lot of international food. So I wondered, are you planning to go international with international celebs to do a similar book?
If one of London's most celebrated chefs is in my book, you must read it just for his journey. Atul Kochhar of Kanishka is in the book, and he says exactly the same thing that you said. That I live in the financial capital of the one of the biggest centers of the world. But what really makes me joyful is maa ke haath ka khana. And in his restaurants, whichever restaurant he sets up, he says his mother's maa ki dal will feature in that restaurant, and various things that she cooked. He has put that. He says most of my dishes are inspired by the simple things that my mother cooked at home. He grew up in Jamshedpur, a Punjabi growing up in Jamshedpur. So the food was influenced by a lot of things, but he says the taste of that food is unparalleled. You know, I don't get that kind of taste anywhere else. So he's introduced all of those things in his restaurants. So you must look up the book, and his recipes that are there, and maybe go eat in Kanishka if you haven't yet.
No, I have been to Kanishka, and I think it's a good one. And Atul has also given me a signed autograph book when I visited there.
30-minute curries.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thanks,
Atul
Sudha.
is a very dear friend.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Atul.
Thank you for reaching out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Deepak.
Thanks.
Joining in from London, always. While on Atul, I must mention that I think his mother's makhni dal and khatai and okra.
Naan khatai. Yes.
I'm
determined to make that one.
Same here. Lovely recipe. It's been described so well. At least I think there are over 100 recipes in the book. So
yes,
everyone should take advantage. While on that note, Sudha, I cannot thank you enough. It has been such a beautiful session. Personally speaking, and I'm sure everyone present and whosoever watches it later on the YouTube, there's so much to learn from you. I mean, you being a writing coach and writing such a beautiful book, I must say, is a double bonus.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Neeta. Always a pleasure to be on your platform. All the best for your future journey. And I'll be back next year with another book. So we'll be back on this interview.
Lovely. Thank you.
Thank you. In the meantime, all of you, please pick up a copy of the book and read it, review it on Amazon. It just takes 3 minutes, but it means a lot for an author to have reviews up so that other readers can find the book. Thank you very much. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Everyone, please do subscribe to Trends Events. You'll find a lot of author interactions, and you will find Sudha's recording very, very soon on the channel.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.